Welcome to another episode of At Home with Sweet Azalea. This week, we're featuring recipes from my most recent book, Southern Menus Season by Season. We're making a delicious green bean bundles that are wrapped in bacon and topped with a tangy sauce. We have a delicious, wonderful side dish of wild rice casserole that is filled with water chestnuts, sauteed mushrooms and onions, and Velveeta cheese. And lastly, we'll finish up with this decadent pineapple coconut pie that is good warmed with vanilla ice cream or just served as a slice with a glass of milk. So join us as we work on these always in season, easy Southern recipes. All right, y'all. Now we're gonna do our green bean bundles. And I've already got this pot of water boiling rapidly because we're gonna blanch the green beans for about 3 or 4 minutes. And then we're gonna submerge them into an ice bath to shock them and keep that good green color. Then we'll drain them and we'll start the bundling. Now this is an induction plate that we use here in the kitchen at the shop. And this is our actual working kitchen where we do the casseroles, we cater. So you're seeing the area where we work every day and our equipment. We have 4 of these and that we have back here, and they're mobile and they're great to have. So I'm gonna pull the top, and there goes all that great steam. And I'm gonna open, these are the French green beans. Most grocery stores have them. They're already snipped, and they're a little bit thinner than a regular green bean, which is, you want this type of green bean for this recipe because they're far more tender and they cook a little more quickly. And we're just gonna slice this bag open with my little kitchen shears. And we're gonna dump one bag in, and then we'll do the other bag. These are some of my favorite little kitchen things because you can use them to slice scallions, open bags, most anything. Now those are gonna blanch for just a few minutes, 3 to 4 minutes. And while they do that, we're gonna mix up our sauce, which is very simple, 2 ingredients. A French dressing, and you do not want the orange French dressing that looks like Halloween. You want the country French or a Russian style, which is this deep, pretty color. So we're gonna put our dressing, and then we have apricot preserves. And you can use peach if you can't find the apricot. And we're gonna just put that in there. And we're just gonna kind of gently stir those together. And there's the sauce. How easy. And these are what the little French green beans look like. They're very thin. They have these pretty the little bloom end. This is the stem end that's been removed. And this is what, like the little bloom, this is what pops out of it first when it's growing on the vines. So let's check. Tongs are probably the best thing to use to remove your beans into the ice bath. I've got several other tools I like. There's a fish spatula that's slotted that works well, but sometimes the beans won't quite stay on it. So these are looking nice. We're gonna give them just a few more minutes. And they're gonna continue to cook in the oven for probably 25 minutes. So we're gonna go ahead and spray our dish. Have that ready. Y'all are gonna love these bundles. Green bean is one of the most universal green vegetables. They do at every kind of function, every kind of banquet, that and chicken. But this is a different way to serve them that your guests will find interesting, fun, different, and they present well and they're delicious. All right, we're gonna turn off our power and we're gonna start putting our green beans into this ice water. This is called blanching. And the older generation of viewers will remember that as they made butter beans and peas, the things they harvested in the summer and blanched and froze to have later in the year. growing up, we didn't buy vegetables at all. Mom and Daddy even sliced and sweetened and froze peaches. And we'd have peaches even in the wintertime. And Daddy would go buy basically meat, chicken, eggs, and bread. Most everything else we had at home that they put up. Mama even canned green beans, which I don't think I was a fan of those. But that's the way they grew up. And people don't can and put up stuff like they used to, and it's kind of a lost art, sadly. I'm gonna move this pot out of the way and slide our little mobile heating element out of the way. And now the beans have been in this cold bath, and we're gonna just pour them into this colander. Set them back in this bowl to work with. Scoop that out of our way. And now we have bacon. And a little bit about the bacon. I really prefer to use the center cut bacon for this recipe. It's a little bit leaner, and you can look at the packages and see there's not a lot of fat on this. There will be, but it's not as bad as in the regular cut bacon. And the center cut just works better with this because it cooks more evenly, and it gets done where a fattier piece of bacon would not. So we're going to take a piece of bacon. Make sure your knife is very sharp. And we're going to take our green beans, and we're going to gather about 7, 8 into a little bundle like this. And I start at one piece of the bacon, and I wrap it, kind of tuck it under, and roll it just a little bit. And then you're going to cut it, and you're going to place the bundle in the dish. And you keep doing this, and this is if you've got children or somebody that like to do, they can count the bundles, and they can help you even wrap the bacon, but you need to use the knife. Don't let somebody that's not age appropriate handle a knife. So I'm going to finish filling up the dish, and we'll put a little bit of seasoning, and then we'll put the sauce, and then they'll be ready for the oven. Now, the wrapping is done, and I would figure 2 bundles per person if you're preparing these for a special dinner or for a group that you're going to have over, because they do shrink a little bit, but people will like these, and they'll want more than just 1 bundle. All right, we have a little bit of our house blend. I'm just going to lightly sprinkle that because we didn't have any salt in the green beans, and just lightly sprinkle, and you'll have plenty of sauce to do multiple dishes, and this will keep in the refrigerator for several weeks because it's refrigerated products anyway. And you're going to start by just kind of drizzling and spooning this tangy sauce over your green beans. And your oven should already be at about 325 to 350, depending on if you use convection. You know, we like to have our convections a little bit lower than a regular oven. Lord, the sauce is dripping, but it's all right. The sauce smells so good. And actually, you can do this same sauce and add an envelope of onion soup mix, put it over chicken, and roast them in the oven or grill them, and it's delicious. A very easy kind of chicken. So there we have our green bean bundles ready for the oven, and we'll taste some of these later in the episode. These recipes, they're really easy, so I don't know why I'm acting exhausted. I've already got our skillet heated up to saute our mushrooms and onions for this delicious wild rice casserole. So we're going to put our a little bit of butter. She wrapped it so well, I didn't know that it was still wrapped up. And I'm gonna scoop it out. And this is a fun little gadget. This is good for mustard jars and getting the last of little things out of jars. Now, I'm gonna turn this down. One thing about these induction plates, they heat very quickly and they react to a special type of cookware that has to have an extra aluminum stainless base because it reacts to the copper coil in the unit. As of right now, it's flashing 240, but there's no real heat coming from it because there's nothing to react to. And as soon as I put the skillet back down, it locks into that temperature of 240. I'm gonna move our butter around a little bit. And I'm gonna add, this is about the size of a medium to a small onion that's been chopped. And again, all of the recipes are available at sweetazalea.com under the recipes tab. And then we're gonna do our mushrooms. And these are the baby bellas. I like those better than the plain white ones. And I use these a whole lot more frequently than I do the white ones because they have a little bit more woodsy, earthier flavor. And they go so well. So we're gonna let that, and I'm gonna turn this up a little bit to help that cook. Now, a little word on the wild rice. You cook 2 boxes of Ben's long grain and wild rice according to the package directions and drain any liquid that's left. Now, when you cook the rice, substitute a half a cup of the water for the 2 boxes and substitute it with sherry. And this gives a really good flavor. It works so well with this long grain and wild rice. And it also is a good accompaniment to the mushrooms that are being sauteed and added. So while they saute, I'm gonna just go ahead and dump the rice into this big bowl. And your rice will be a little bit al dente because again, it's gonna bake in the oven and you don't want a gummy, gooey mess. So I'm gonna break that up, come back over and see why this is not being cooperative today. Any other time they'd have already burned in the pan. Come on, little mushrooms, don't be shy. Give up the ghost and cook, little mushrooms, come on. All right, they're gonna do something in a minute. All right, then go ahead and the Velveeta is melted in the microwave and you're going to add it to your rice. I'm gonna use this little spoon here. Get all that goodie. It was butter, it's not gonna hurt a thing, so quit worrying I'm doing something wrong. And now I'm gonna go ahead and put the water chestnuts and the drained diced pimento. And I'm gonna go ahead and start mixing this up. And the recipe doesn't call for any extra seasoning. The Velveeta, of course, has a lot of salt in it, but it's not over salty. It's not too much for this, but I am gonna put just a little sprinkle of our house seasoning in that. And these mushrooms and onions, if you could smell how wonderful these onions do. And we're gonna cook the mushrooms a little more because you wanna get the moisture out of a mushroom, because if you put the mushrooms in and they aren't sauteed well enough, you're gonna get a little of that water as they cook and shrink in the casserole dish. It'll throw off your texture. So go ahead and be patient and let them, they'll eventually get there. And you don't really want these browned, you just want them tender and, ooh, I'm tempted to put some sherry in that, but we don't want to over sherry it. So mix all this. I've also got another wild rice casserole that has chopped cooked spinach in it, and it's really good, and it's got cream cheese in it, and it's a good dish. Okay, got that kind of mixed in well. All right, these are nice and tender and limp, and we're gonna add them. Let's do it this way so everybody can see. And see how the pan started getting that little bit of dark, and that you can smell that caramelization a little bit that was starting with the onions. And we're gonna spray our dish. See how this recipe is so fast. They're so easy. Because when I cater, I like easy recipes, because the more complicated the recipe, the more likely you will to have an error, especially when you're having to multiply it to feed a large number of people. Y'all, I wish you could just smell all these things coming together, all these wonderful ingredients. And when we get ready to serve it, we're gonna sprinkle a little parsley on top. So now we're gonna spoon this into our casserole dish. And as usual, some got on the behind me there, but it is far from a perfect world. Okay. And then we're gonna just kind of spread this evenly. This is one of my favorite casserole dishes, and I've got them in the smaller square sizes, which are great for dips or even serving sauces in. There's one real little bitty one, he's like this big, and that's good if you're going to a small gathering and you want to take a little baked dip. All right, so there's our easy wild rice casserole, and it's ready for the oven at 350, 325 convection for about 30 to 35 minutes. Okay, y'all, this is our last recipe, and we're doing a pineapple coconut pie. And while it sounds tropical, it is not overly tropical tasting, if that makes any sense. It tastes like an old-fashioned pie, almost like a chess pie that you would have had a long time ago. And we're gonna spray our pie dish, and this one will save us the trouble of trying to get a really nice decorative pie border because of the way the pan is shaped. So we're just gonna lightly spray it. And this is the commercial box of the little pie rolls. You get 2 rolls of this in a box. And again, there are those that are cringing that I'm not making a homemade pie crust. However, a homemade pie crust can be very frustrating, and this is not going to affect the quality of your pie. So I'm going to unroll this, and it's a little soft, but you do want it not cold out of the refrigerator, because if you do, then you won't get a smooth roll. It'll actually want to kind of crack where it's been rolled. So I'm going to gently unroll this, and now that I've got it started, I'm going to put it. And you see this one's gonna fit down in the dish really, really nicely. It's not gonna come up over the sides for a pretty decorative border because this dish is very deep. But you can still do a little bit of tucking and, to make a pretty shape. And that's ready. So we're gonna, let's just do one little something. All right, we'll set that aside. About dropped it, that got greasy. And this is a very, very easy recipe. I gotta get my whisk. And we're gonna start with 4 eggs. Show off and do one-handed egg. I remember how excited I was the first time I was able to do that with one hand. All right, we're gonna kind of lightly whisk those eggs. And then I like to add my sugar and then the 3 tablespoons of flour because the sugar helps that flour distribute and not have so many lumps in it. If you just dump everything in there together, that flour is not going to easily incorporate. And if you see how smooth that looks, just give it a few more little passes with the whisk. We're going to put in our vanilla, and I love to use a Mexican vanilla. It's just, I mean, and it would taste horrible because it's nothing but alcohol, but it makes you want to just drink it. It smells so, so good. Then we have our melted butter, or you can use margarine. And then we have our coconut that was wrapped so tightly. Again, I didn't know it was still wrapped. And you put the coconut in. And then we're using a small can of crushed pineapple, undrained. Don't get a big can because you've got it in the pantry and think you can figure out how much. Go ahead and buy the little small can and do it like you're supposed to. Pop this open. Lord, it looks like I'm opening up tuna fish. Well, we're going to dump it in. The lid's not cooperating. All right, we're going to just mix all this together. And this is probably one of the quickest recipes ever. Get all that coconut out of your whisk and then just pour it. And it's like, oh, it's going to overflow. It's going to overflow. No, it does just like it's supposed to. And we're going to get our spatula and get all that goodie. And this goes in a 350-degree oven. And I usually time it periodically. And after about 40 to 45 minutes, it shouldn't jiggle in the center. And it should be a little bit firm to the touch. So bake it according to how your oven is, whether it's hot or too slow. And just keep a good eye on it. And I'm going to fix one more little thing because it needs to be kind of balanced. But that's our pineapple coconut pie, ready for the oven. Well, y'all, it's been a great day in the neighborhood and in our kitchen. These are some of the easiest recipes that you can put together when you're going to have a dinner party. I'm going to finally get to taste this wild rice casserole that's been calling my name. Look at those water chestnuts and that mushroom. I'm going to get the mushroom, and I love a water chestnut. So we're going to get, well, I need a rice, I guess. Hold the phone. That's delicious. You get a good creaminess from that Velveeta, but you don't taste Velveeta. That's some good stuff. Now, our green bean bundles that have that wonderful sauce over them. And look how tender, y'all. Look at that. They cut them with a fork. Now, it's a big bite, so y'all bear with me. But I wanted that bacon and all that goodness. And I'm going to show you, if I can get it up there. Look how pretty and green those beans are. This would be great with a piece of broiled salmon or a good pork tenderloin. And these are not heavy dishes. Now, this is a heavy dish. This is that pineapple coconut pie. And I've had this multiple times recently. And look, I'm going to do this with my fingers. That pie crust, look how flaky that pie, and it's the Pillsbury pie dough. You can't go wrong with it. And there's some pineapple in there and that coconut. Say nothing else to me. That is old-timey tasting right there. All these recipes are in my cookbook. They're available on our website, sweetazalea.com. Thank y'all so much for joining me for another episode and fun time in At Home with Sweet Azalea. And as always, from our kitchen to yours, cook what you love and love what you cook. Until next time,